Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Pardonable Live. Oh, my mic is very high. How is everybody doing tonight? It's Sunday night, ready to hang out. I am running slightly behind, like 3 minutes behind, but nobody cares because it's Christmas season, guys. Christmas season, season of hope, season of peace and joy, guys. I'm excited about the next few weeks. So basically, before we get into it, you guys know the drill. Like and subscribe. I've got Christmas font at the bottom. Golly, my mouse is all janky today. Christmas font down the bottom. If you can't read what that says, because it's in a very cheerful and jolly font, it says like and subscribe, you jabronis. Because you guys know the drill. That's what we do. That's what we do here at Pardon Will. Guys, the other thing, and I know I do this every week, I'm not going to even pull the website up because it's getting really, really close to Christmas. But if you do want to support the podcast, you can go to Pardon Will Live. Pardon Will Live. Oh my God. Pardonwill.com. Pardon Will Live is not a website. Oh, I should probably buy that one before someone else does. Don't go buy that website because I probably need to, let me write that down. Go to pardonwill.com. Buy some art. It should be, this week might be the last bit. You got about three more days to buy some art off pardonwill.com to get it there before Christmas. After Wednesday, I think that's it, guys. I don't think I'll be able to get it to you. Maybe a New Year's. New Year's could be a present for New Year's. That's always a good thing. Wow, my mouse is really not one to work. I'm gonna have to do it this way. Anyway, getting all sidetracked right off the bat. Had a great week. Hope you had a wonderful week. Last week on Pardon Will Live, we did a Christmas movie theme. That Christmas movie was Batman Returns. I think is one of the greatest Christmas movies of all time. And people argue, is it really a Christmas movie? Because I thought we're talking about the big argument with Christmas movies is whether or not if Christmas is the central theme, then it becomes a Christmas movie. But if Christmas is in the peripheral, then it's not technically a Christmas movie. I actually beg to differ. I don't know if Christmas has to be the center theme because I would even say Nightmare Before Christmas. Christmas is in the friggin' title. That centers around Christmas, and that's a Halloween movie, right? Nightmare Before Christmas is technically a Halloween movie. I think so. You fight me on that, and you can fight me in the chat because the chat is open. So come hang out. Speaking of which, chat's open, and we got Christmas font, guys. I can't read friggin' Christmas font. Hateful Sadist coming in. Oh, I like the name. Very Christmassy. It says, I hate Christmas. Never mind. Well, that makes sense. Look at your name. Hateful Sadist. Guys, lo and behold, Hateful Sadist hates Christmas. Didn't see that one coming. Well, you know what? It makes sense. It all makes sense. I appreciate you hanging out. All right. So, Nightmare Before Christmas, not necessarily a Christmas movie, even though Christmas is in the title and it's mostly around Christmas. So, that whole argument about, for a Christmas movie, to be an actual Christmas movie, Christmas has to be the center point. It's wrong, totally wrong. But even if you're like, well, no, that seems right. The Christmas movie theme we have for this week episode tonight is a very special, near and dear to my heart. And Christmas is kind of at the forefront, except for it's not called Christmas. So Hateful Sadist might like this one. So and before you. All right, so it's not the best Christmas movie of all time, but it is definitely the best worst Christmas movie. So if you were like, what's the worst Christmas movie of all time? Is there a best of the worst? Can you be the best at being the worst? Again, these are all questions I don't have answers to. But if there was the best worst Christmas movie of all time, it's our theme for this week. Our movie this week is Star Wars Holiday Special. Best worst Christmas movie of all time. I enjoyed it, not because I think it was fun, but it definitely was entertaining. If you haven't seen it, I'm not even sure where to go see it at. It's out there in the ether. It kind of got squashed. I think George Lucas wasn't a fan of it, even though he made it. Either way, Star Wars Holiday Special. For this week, the whole entire episode I'm going to try to theme it around Star Wars. Notice the title of the episode. Bad feeling about this. That's a quote from Han Solo. It says it's like a catchphrase. It says it throughout the films. It's fun. It's a good time. All right, back to me. So, we're also going to talk about basically what I thought we would do this episode, because we're not just tying in Christmas movies into the episode and making a theme around the whole thing. Actually trying to pull a lesson from each movie, and how that's going to relate to how we look at the year coming. And so I thought what we were going to talk about is kind of a serious topic tonight. We're going to try to have fun with it. It's going to be inspirational. But I thought we'd talk about failure, and not just like failure, like horrifically disabling failure, like the Star Wars Holiday Special, because it wasn't. And here's the thing about failure before we go farther, just a caveat. When you think of failure, I'm not talking about mistakes. Mistakes, people make mistakes. Mistakes are made all the time. Star Wars Holiday Special was not a mistake. The Star Wars Holiday Special was actually a failure. See, you could have made mistakes in the movie, and those mistakes could accumulate into one large mistake, but I wouldn't say that was technically a failure, because I think with mistakes, it's not that you did something wrong, it's that you missed the goal that you were aiming for, which would be technically what I would consider a failure. You failed to reach that particular goal. Now, I don't know what exactly the goal was for the holiday special. I don't think George Lucas quite knew, other than making money. That might have been it. It came out fairly recently after Star Wars: A New Hope, the very first one, and then shortly after the holiday special, Empire Strikes Back, which could be arguably the best Star Wars movie of all time. My words, not yours. I understand. Hateful Sadists might hate Empire Strikes Back as well. They hate Christmas, so apparently they hate everything that brings me joy. So yeah, they might hate that too. That's fair. They probably love The Last Jedi. Anyway, so what I'm saying is I don't think we're not talking about making mistakes tonight. We're going to talk about actually missing your goal way off, and actually talking about failures and how we deal with failure, and how we redeem failure, and or at least what we should do with our with the things we fail at, guys. And I don't know if you know this, but I'm a person. I'm not AI generated. And so your boy here has made a ton of mistakes and has definitely failed a time or two. We'll say maybe more than two. Maybe more than two. Definitely made some mistakes over the time. But before we go into our deep dark conversation about failures and what that means, I figure we talk about something else that is Star Wars related, and it's the news that's been going around, guys. I don't know how you feel about this, but I had a buddy of mine text me. He doesn't live in New York. I live in New York. He's like, "Hey, you seen them drones flying around?" Now, technically, probably. I probably have seen a few of those drones. Now, I don't know if they're my neighbors. Could be. I actually don't know if all these drones are. I don't know if they're aliens. I don't know if they're governments. I don't know if there are government, and I also don't know if they're my neighbors. But here's what I will tell you. I was going to go back a few years. Like, let's talk about the drone thing real quick. Actually, before we talk about the drone thing, I pulled up some footage, some very interesting footage. Maybe the drones are aliens, and we're going to talk about them being aliens, just so I can tie this video clip and this conversation about the drones into the holiday theme Star Wars. But to be honest, after I saw this clip of the drones, I was like, I have a bad feeling about this. Take a look at this clip of the drones that are being spotted over Maryland and New Jersey and New York and all over the East Coast. Take a look at, guys, look at this. Oh, I should probably play it. Can you? Yeah, there it is. I don't think there's any sound. Yeah, guys, I don't think there's any sound. Yeah. All right, I'm going to pause it. Now, I know you don't know. Let me get on this side of the screen. I know you probably didn't know I just paused it. You could probably still think it's playing. The reason why you're probably still thinking this video is playing is because it's such terrible quality. And it's just a bad visual. Not unlike our holiday special. Keeping on with the theme. Very bad quality. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to switch. We're going to do it this way so you can really get an idea of what's going on here. Let's continue it on. And we're looking at the blinking dots. Ignore the watermark. I stole this from Dissonant Media off Twitter. Ignore that part. That's not a drone. That's just a watermark. Check out the dots. Everybody pay attention to the dots. All right, those dots got some blinking. We got blinking now. I don't think those dots are moving that quickly. I think that's the camera moving. Yep, there they are again. Yep, that's them. That's definitely the drones, guys. I think those are aliens. I'm gonna go with aliens on this one. I'm just joking, guys. Here's the thing. Why are all the drones only coming out at night? Maybe it's nefarious. Maybe. Or maybe they are coming out during the day. Who knows? Here's my thoughts on the drones thing. Is it worrisome? Maybe. Probably about as worrisome as that balloon that floated across the US like a year and a half ago. What happened to that thing? Did they shoot that thing down? Nope. Did we ever find out what it was? Yep. Who was it? Was it some science project? Some kid at some kind of a junior high made a weather balloon. It got away from him, floated across the entire U.S., just hovered over some naval bases by chance. Nope, it was China. Balloons flying over U.S. It was China. What's to say these drones aren't a foreign government? I heard a big conspiracy out there. I think the first thing people thought was, and hear me out on this one, a lot of people came out and were like, these drones are coming off the coast. They're Iran. And I was like, wait, why Iran? Oh, that's right. For some reason, it seems like people really want us to go to war with Iran. I don't know why or who would be behind something like that, but it seems like every nefarious thing that comes out, it's Iran. Oh, it's Iran. Someone's trying to shoot Trump. Oh, it's Iran. This bad thing's happening. It's Iran. Somebody stole your personal ID and racked up some credit on Rent a Center. Iran. That didn't happen to me. It might happen to you. I'm just saying things that happen. Oh, side note, if you're really worried about cybersecurity, they're not. I don't have a sponsor for cybersecurity. It's not like VPNs. I don't have anything like that tonight. So what I'll do for your cybersecurity, make sure your credit score and all that stuff and all your personal information stays safe. The best thing you can do is have a really crappy credit score. That's what I've been doing for years, and no one's stolen my ID. I'm at the point where if someone steals my identification, they might actually try to improve it because they feel bad. It's the Christmas spirit. It's the right thing to do. Who knows? Maybe I should put my stuff out there. Put all my information out there. Maybe somebody will be like, I'm stealing this guy's stuff. And maybe it'll be a Christmas miracle. They'll be like, oh, I'm going to help this guy out a little bit. Anyway, that's your cybersecurity advice. Guys, I don't know what the drones are, truthfully. And it's been one of those things where I can't tell if it's this year. This year has had so many things going on that it's been hard to pay attention to, but it definitely feels exhausting to try to keep up with all the crazy news things that are coming out that are happening. And on top of that, I've been for a year been telling you can't trust the media. So how am I supposed to be like, oh, the media is talking about drones. Let's definitely trust them. So now all of a sudden I can't do that either. And this is the state of the world we live in. So all I can do is if I see a drone, hope it's my next door neighbor because he's got one. Everybody I know and their mom has a drone. Guys, I have a drone. It's not a very expensive one, but I have a drone right over here in the studio that I bought so my dogs could chase it around the yard. Little tiny guy. But who knows? Everybody's got drones these days. Trump came out and said we should shoot them down. Don't know if that's a good idea, but it does sound fun. So kudos to Trump. Trump's always looking to have a good time. And so I'm not telling you to shoot the drones down, but how are you going to know who's manning them or what they got on them if you don't get your hands on it? And the only way to get your hands on it is little pow pow, little pee pee, shooting them down. That's what I would do. And it makes me wonder why they're flying over New Jersey and New York, and they're not going to any red state. Why aren't they flying over red states? And that was your answer. They wouldn't survive. They'd be getting capped left and right. It's duck hunting season. Wait, no, it's not. That's over with. Well, people want to go duck hunting, and since is duck hunting season over? It's deer season now. Those don't overlap. I don't think those overlap. Either way, it's drone season. So that's the new season on thing. Go out there, shoot you down a drone. Write to me, tell me what was about. If it was Iranian language written on the side of it, or if it was aliens. Back to Star Wars, guys. I had to do it because this show. I try to talk about the news that happened this week, but not a lot of stuff happened. It's just been drones everywhere on my news feed. There's a few small things that happened, but really the drones was the big thing. And I was like, I'm happy the news is slowing down for Christmas so we can focus on the really important things. One of the really important things that has happened. Oh, let's just go back to the Star Wars thing. This is over some time. And I wanted to bring this up because I want to talk about what it's when you fail, what to do with it. So Star Wars Holiday Special came out right after the first New Hope. It was a big hit, smash opposite. I don't know if you know that people love Star Wars. Um, and then they came out with the holiday special. And if you haven't seen it, it is a miss. It's just a Mod Podge. It's all over the place. It's all over the place. Nothing makes sense. I was gonna play some clips from it because they're fun and they're funny. But I thought instead of playing the clips from it, because that's you can go watch it, you can find those. I found a compilation of the actors who were in that years later, talking about how they feel about the holiday special, and I thought this was somewhat curious how their reactions are. So take a look at this. So this is, I mean, it's obviously it's not super relevant. Carrie Fisher's in this video clip, and she's no longer with us. R.I.P. But take a look how the consensus from the actors is about that.
Sorry, I didn't hear that word holiday special. I read it. I said, "This is awful. Why are we doing this?" I said, "I'm not doing this." So George says, "Look, it's just a way to keep the merchandising fresh in people's minds." Oh, right. But I'm not singing.
I was wondering if you could talk about the filming of the Star Wars Christmas special.
I really don't remember except that song. I do. We celebrate our day of peace. That's all I really remember, except thinking, what is Art Carney doing with the Wookiees?
There's sort of one kind of rogue Star Wars element, which is the Star Wars Holiday Special. I wonder what would...
Can we cut tape? Cut tape now. This is not allowed. You promised. Nobody is allowed to mention this.
Oh, really?
Have you seen it?
If I said it to... I've not seen it. If I said that to George Lucas, what would his face be like?
I think he'd leave the room.
Oh, really?
I have the script at home. It's about that thick, but you will die if you watch it.
A Christmas special came out that was produced by George Lucas, in which all of the participants in Star Wars came together and they made this Star Wars Christmas special, and the tape's been passed around for years, and the rumor is that Lucas is trying to suppress it because none of you look happy while you're making this thing. Do you remember making this Christmas special? I think it was 1978. No, you don't remember it? You have no memory of this incident.
No, none whatsoever.
No memory of it at all.
No,
so it doesn't exist in your...
No, it doesn't.
All right, so in that clip, we got two things that I thought were pertinent. Luke Star Wars, Luke Skywalker kind of put it out there. And it's like, yeah, George said this would help merchandise stay in the zeitgeist after Star Wars, so it was important that we did this. Thought that was important because I don't think that was needed whatsoever. If anything, it made people, what you see later on in those clips of people, it really tried to get people to distance themselves from Star Wars at all. And so was it a mistake? Was the holiday Star Wars? Yeah, it was a mistake in the grand scheme of all the films, but let's be honest, a lot of the films were big mistakes, but it was a failure in its own because the purpose of the holiday special was for them to sell merch and kind of keep that moving, and it didn't do a great job. It didn't do really a great job with that. And even I mean, it's a joke, and all these clips are like, oh, we don't want to talk about it, but you can tell that was a real sentiment back then, that the holiday special kind of just doesn't, like, it was wiped. Like, people don't really talk about it. That's not a really big thing. Let's not watch it every year for Christmas because it's hard to even get through. And I don't know if people even knew what the point of it was. There was a lot of singing. Here's what I think it was. Back in the day, and I don't understand this at all, but people loved song and dance shows. Like, people went to a show and they wanted to hear a dance, a comedian, the songs, and they wanted theater, but with music. It's like a musical theater or something. I don't understand that. People still like that stuff. Complete nut jobs. People love that stuff. And I think the George Lucas is like, why don't we do something special? Song and dance. You know, we'll tell a story with some holiday feeling things, even though Christmas really isn't even in that galaxy. Side note, Christ died for all sins. Even that galaxy as well. They just don't know about it yet. That's my little Jesus spiel for Star Wars. Just playing. Yeah, so the holiday, Life Day or whatever they're celebrating. Either way, guys, the point is, the whole point of this was it was a complete and utter failure. It failed in what it was meant to do. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a failure. And the thing with failures is they're hard to manage. I think they're hard to manage because it feels like you took an arrow to the knee. There's a Skyrim reference for you. Got all kinds of weird references. Where it feels daunting, disabling. It makes you question the reason you're doing anything. So it's not just like I made a mistake, but it makes you have to take a step back and be like, wait, am I even supposed to be doing this? That's what when I think of failure and failures in my life, I think about like times where it's been so bad that I had to sit back and go, wait, am I even on the right track? Was I even meant to do this? Am I even good at this? So basically, every episode of Pardon Will Live Sunday nights, I sit back and go, was I really meant? No, I'm just joking. These aren't failures. These are just tiny little mistakes that I do every Sunday. And then to bring up a good example of what you can do with failures, I don't know if you know this. I talked about it a while back. Star Wars came out with a new series. Now, obviously, Star Wars has not done too well in the recent past, but they came out with this trailer to the series called The Skeleton Crew, and I was like, this thing looks awesome. It's Goonies in space, and lo and behold, it is a bit Goonies. I haven't watched it all, just a heads up. And the first 15 minutes that I have watched, it is Goonies in space, but it feels like it's a few ages below that. It's a bit Pixar-ish. And so I know they're trying to like it's Star Wars for kids and Star Wars. Yeah, I totally get that. It's not supposed to be super adult, but this feels like Bluey in space, not Goonies in space. It feels very, very kiddish. Either way, there's a bunch of cool callbacks in it that I haven't quite seen yet. But I've noticed a few. And then recently they did do a hardcore callback. So I want you to watch this. This was in one of the most recent episodes. And then I'm going to explain it. Check this out. This is what recently came out. Star Wars Skeleton Crew on Disney. Check out the scene. All right, so you might not know what that is, but in Star Wars: The Holiday Special, there's a part where Chewbacca's son, he's upset Chewie's not home, and so his mom puts on him at a table with like a holodeck, and they play this exact thing, this thing with music and all, the whole scene, and everyone back in 1978, so that's when The Holiday Special came out, was like, what in the hell am I watching? Like, well, this is kind of creepy. The whole movie was creepy. The whole thing was weird and off-putting. And it's the stuff nightmares are made out of. But this particular scene, they took that and they just threw it into this newest special, which was kind of neat because it for over all the years they've been like, no, let's just try to forget the holiday special even happened. It was just in the back of our mind. Let's never pay attention. Let's never speak of it again. And let's just not acknowledge that we failed this time. And let's just move on forward like it never, ever happened. And lo and behold, what is this, like 40 something years later? God, longer than that. No, 40 something years later. They take a small snippet and they put it right back into the newest thing in a way of redeeming the holiday special. So I saw online people are talking about like, oh my God, they took this thing from the holiday special. Coincidentally, it is around the same time. Well, the holiday special obviously came out, I think, in November in 78, around Christmas time. And this series is coming out around Christmas time. So I thought it was very cool that they brought this particular scene in. But what I really thought it was cool is they're acknowledging the holiday special, and not just a backup way, like maybe there's a little Easter egg in the background, but kind of up front. And they're doing it in a way like we recognize that this was ridiculous. But this ridiculousness fits somewhere. Like it fits in some place in the Star Wars galaxy. Like the holiday special technically happened. I mean, now it definitely technically happened. There's a few other reasons why it technically happened. I'm not going to go into because it's just turning into a complete Star Wars podcast. And I can't do that because if I do that, I'll dominate the entire internet sphere, nerdom. And I don't want to do that. I want to let them stay in their lane. I'm going to stay in my idiot lane over here where I mix all kinds of analogies and metaphors and Christmas movies and politics, smash them into one. Either way, it took the holiday special and it kind of acknowledged it with its other mainstream material, and did it in a classy way. And here's the point: I think the best way to deal with failures, like it's not like they redeemed it. It's not like they made the holiday special better now that it's in the Skeleton Crew, or at least add to canon. But they didn't shy away from the failure. They acknowledged it. Like, hey, this was a dumb idea. It was a bad movie. It was horrific. They acknowledged it and then they played off of it and said, we're not going to ignore this. It's a part of the story now. And one of the best reasons it's part of the story is because uh, everybody's story is not perfection. And I think it was a cool sign. Now, obviously I'm reading into this, what they did, and into a deeper realm for you. But I thought that was important for you specifically, is because it's a great way to look at failures. Is because even if you want to avoid ever thinking about that time, you're like, well, I really failed at that thing that I was aiming at. Um, you don't have to ignore it. It's just a part of your story, and it doesn't always mean it's a terrible part. Because even though the holiday special was horrific, um, you can look at the holiday special differently now from all the other crappy material Star Wars has made in the future. It's not that they failed once and then they learned their lesson. They failed once, they did it completely great, and then later on failed some more. And lo and behold, they're still making great TV shows. I'm saying it's great. I haven't really watched it, but I'm going to assume the Skeleton Crew is turning out to be very cool. Um, and so I like the idea that they're saying, in a wink, wink, nod, nod way, look, as creators of something, we're not going to get it right every time. We're gonna go out on a limb and make a song and dance thing for Christmas and see if anybody picks up on it. And it's not going to go very well. But instead of being like, well, that never happened, we go, it happened, and it's a part of the story, and it's a part of our story. So here's my take, my long-winded take on failure. Um, I think the best way to deal with failure is by acknowledging it and integrating it into your everyday. Not just learn from it, but integrate it into part of your and part of your identity and part of who you are. The way scars do. Now everyone's like, "Well, this scar is a blemish on the skin of perfection or whatever." Um, it is, but it also tells a greater story. And I think that particular story is one of humanity. Not to bring this all the way into politics, but I think that was one of the best parts about what we saw in this past election. You had two different candidates, and it definitely seemed like, and we're going to talk about this towards the end, I have a clip for it. Definitely seemed like one candidate uh, is obviously not perfect, and obviously trying to doing his best to not spend too much time making sure you think he's perfect, while the other campaign was very, very clear that there's only certain things that you could see, certain things you couldn't see, and really trying to orchestrate the way they came out to the general public. Um, I think that's one of the reasons why Kamala never did Joe Rogan. I think it's one of the reasons why she stumbled over freestyling and in interviews, is because I think they tried to polish it too much. They didn't embrace the things that she was bad at. Whereas in Trump comes out with cologne and NFTs, and like he's okay with embracing. The guy makes fun. There's an SNL clip where he makes fun of his own hair. He makes fun of himself nonstop. If you watch any of the clips, you're like, well, he's a narcissist. Well, then why is he constantly telling jokes about himself, about him being orange or his hair being weird or him having tiny hands? He's always doing that. He's very self-effacing in that way. And we never really got that from the other campaign. They never really told jokes on. I mean, Walls kind of called himself a knucklehead at times, but that didn't even feel right. That didn't feel authentic. And I think what they could have done better in the Harris campaign is they could have let her slip up in public and kind of own those and own those failures. And I think that would have told a better story for her, and she would have done better. But that's only because I believe when you fail in life, the best thing to do is not ignore it, but to own it, and to own it as something you did, like your failure. Not only does that show accountability, not only does that show resilience, but and self-effacing, it also shows that you're aware of your imperfections in a way that it's not crippling. Because the one thing when people deal with failure, the last thing they want to do is talk about. No one wants to talk about their mistakes. When you screw up at work or school or whatever, no one it's not a topic you want to bring up at the dinner table. But it does say a lot about you if you can, move into that realm where you do talk about your failures and go, look, I messed up here. It was a learning curve, and it was something that I had to get used to, and then I have to own. Quick short story. when this podcast started off, it wasn't called the Pardonable Podcast or Live. It was called something completely different. It was the name of an art gallery because I opened up an art gallery, and it was very short-lived. But I did it because I wanted to interview the artists that were coming through the gallery, sit down and talk to them. You can actually go back on Spotify and Apple and all that and listen to those early episodes. And then you'll also see a few months down the line, I would like to blame it on COVID, but that's not what happened. I had to close the gallery. And I did a specific episode called What Happened and What's Next, where I talk about how it feels like a failure, but it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like something I need to avoid. So I actually sat and talked about the mistakes I made and the things that I got from it, and just kind of brought it up front. I didn't hide from it. I was like, this happened, and there's no point in ignoring it. So let's just talk about it. And I think that shows. I think that does better for the soul. And it's a long rant, guys. We're just chilling tonight. It's just a fun night about Star Wars failures, and so I'm just kind of not many jokes in this, but I'm just trying to lighten the mood and bring you up to speed for what the year's about to come. One of the things about the Christmas season that no one really wants to talk about, it's not necessarily failure, but it does tie in, is how difficult this season is to get through. And it's one of those things, like every once in a while you'll see like a post on social media be like, hey guys, check in on your friends, because it's not always easy for everybody. Guys, I don't think it's easy for most people. I think that's the truth no one ever wants to talk about. I think holidays, while they're a great time for family and friends, they're extremely difficult to get through on multiple different realms. I'm not just talking like financially, I'm talking emotionally. It's hard if you have someone to spend Christmas with. That can be difficult, especially if it's a large family and you're dealing with people that you don't often see a lot. You're dealing with travel plans, you're dealing with expenses, you're dealing with who's going to make what, who's going to cook the turkey, who's bringing this side. Now we got fights. Uncle so and so got too drunk. Hey, brought up Trump. We got, it can be difficult, but it can, to be honest, I think it's worse. But it's also difficult if you spend the holidays by yourself. Yeah, you're not fighting over who's making what because there's no one to fight over with because you're by yourself. I think the majority of people have struggled through the holidays, especially Christmas. Not even talking about how it's cold outside. It's hard to go out. It's hard to really want to celebrate life and growth and flourishing when everything's dead. And we're moving right on into the deepest, darkest part of the season. So it's a difficult time already. So I thought what would be great is if we talk about how we talk about failures. We talk about how the season is difficult for most people, not just you and me and everybody else that you think might have a hard time. Most people it's difficult. But also talk about what we can do to get through this winter and get into the next year, and how to move forward on all the things. Because guess what? Newsflash, guys, you're going to make more mistakes in life. I'm going to make more mistakes in life. They're coming. I'm going to fail. You're going to fail. This podcast is already a failure. I'm just kicking this dead horse into the ground because I can. And it's a good time. The thing about failures is sometimes there's always gold to be mined after it. And this is my favorite part about when people are like, well, that was a complete failure. Well, complete's a big word. So let's talk about the Star Wars Holiday Special. Was it a complete failure? Well, was it a failure? Yes. Was it a complete failure? That one might not be. That one might not be. It might not have been a complete failure. Here's the reason why it might not have been a complete failure. Ready for this? This is a clip from the holiday special. I'm going to show it to you. We're going to watch it. It's the only clip from it. I'm not going to do that to you. But check this thing.
R2, stand by to fire the ejection pod.
And hurry, R2, or we'll be deserted soon. What is it, Mr. Luke?
I'm not sure. You saved my life. Thank you.
You are alone?
I have 2 droids. We've come in search of a ship that crashed near here.
Maybe I can help you. I am Boba Fett.
Anyway, God, sorry about that audio. I was sitting the whole time like, how do I find the volume on this thing? Couldn't do it. Guys, out of the whole holiday special, complete, utter disaster, we got one of the greatest Star Wars characters of all time. Right there. That was the first time you get to see Boba Fett. And look at, one of the greatest toys they ever sold. I mean, George Lucas was right about that one thing. Like, they made a ton of merch off that cat. And they're still making a ton of merch off him. They're still bringing out series with Boba Fett. Now, the series aren't very good until The Mandalorian comes in. But either way, he's got his own book, Book of Boba. Either way, guys, this is my point. As I wonder how long it took for them to realize, like, this holiday special is a failure. Let's never talk about it again. Except for somebody in the back was like, wait, I drew the Boba Fett character. Can we at least bring him in? We're like, well, sure. But we'll pretend like we've never seen him before. There was gold in the middle of all that failure. There was gold in that giant mistake that they made. There's this one little nugget of gold that turned into a ton of money for them. And so my point is, just because it looks like a failure to you at that time, feels like something you never want to look at again, something you never want to see. There might be something in the middle of that that will outlast the distaste, I guess would be the best word, when you think about a failure. I know no one wants to think about it. It's hard to dissect your failures into that. Actually probably is a bad practice, especially not around the holidays. Let's not start just bringing up the past and trying to dissect it and where we went wrong. But there is always something maybe that came out of that maybe you don't even see. Maybe you got a little Boba Fett in your failure. That 2025, that little Boba Fett's going to pop up and he's going to get his own series. You never know. You never know, guys. You never know what's going to come up. You never know the cool things that you know that can come out of your mistakes and all that. So I just wanted to bring that up. I figured we talk about the best worst Christmas movie of all time, the holiday special, and how it's affected and what its effect on me and you and how we can look at our own failures. Guys, the one thing I don't want for myself, and I don't want for anybody listening, I don't want the things like life is difficult. Okay, here's a good explanation. Here's an off the wall reference. Here's an off the wall reference that no one should get, nor should they even try to get. There was this indie movie way back in the day called Stay. Had Ryan Gosling in it and a few other people. And it's not, I'm sure it might be a great movie. I don't really remember the movie, but I do remember this one particular line. And so, of course, I'm an artist, so I pick up anytime art's mentioned. I'm kind of it perks my ears up a little bit. I'm like, hey, well, what's going on here? Ryan Gosling's character is an artist, and he's depressed, and he's going through a hard time. He's having a conversation, and he references a fictional artist in the past, and he says this line. He says, "The real tragic beauty." Oh, I'm sorry, I'm already butchering it. It's not a line that's super famous. It says, "Bad art is tragically human and beautiful because it represents human failure." Basically saying bad art is actually real art because it's not perfection. It's bad, and it shows and documents human failure. And I thought that quote was real interesting because I was like, that's one way to look at it. But to be honest, that's a completely dumb quote. Human failures are all too often documented. They're documented all the time, and they're not beautiful because they're that makes no sense. This quote's completely dumb. That might be why I remembered it, because I only remember the dumb quotes. Completely dumb, but I did think about it enough to where it stuck with me for years, where I still think about that quote like, God, that was a dumb quote. But I think what they're trying to say is human failure, bad art, is if you're an artist, you make something bad. That's a part of all the good things that you make, the real beauty in it. And I think that's the point. I think a good art piece is a collaboration of all the past art pieces before then and the artists themselves. So whatever the artist has went through, you're never going to get a Mona Lisa until you at least try a stick figure. And so, I mean, that's a dumb way of putting it, but my point is, all the bad art, I don't think is beautiful because it documents human failure. I think good art is beautiful because it documents what happens after the failure. That's the thing that's what's so unimpressive about prodigies. Anytime you see a movie, or what we like to call nowadays Mary Sue's, speaking of the Star Wars reference, when like a Rey Skywalker shows up and she's got all these cool Jedi tricks and no one's ever trained her, she's all of a sudden she's awesome. There's another I hate to pick on women, but you know that's what I do. Captain Marvel, you know, she gets zapped to the stone, all of a sudden she's the most powerful being in the universe. There's nothing interesting about prodigies. There's nothing interesting about people just having it right off the bat. That's the worst part about any artist. You would think like, well, all of a sudden they showed up and they're amazing. Look how interesting that is. No, it's not interesting at all. There's no story behind it. Anytime someone's just naturally gifted at one thing, kind of interesting, but what's way more interesting is the person who sucked at it at first and now are really good. I think it tells a better story. And so in that reference, I think it's better to fail and then to succeed than it is to just succeed and never fail. Because if you only succeed, then there's nothing really in that. It's shallow. It's a shallow well to pull from. And so failure is not the end all be all. It's actually almost in the way it's framed now that I framed it on purpose. It's actually a good thing. And it's actually beneficial to have a few of those. It's actually really beneficial to have a few of those. You know what else is beneficial to have, guys? This is the coolest friggin' segue ever. It's beneficial to have some sweet merch. Guys, check out this. It's a buddy of mine has a company called Who Touched the Thermostat. He makes a ton of cool merch. This one has Do Not Comply, Abolish the IRS. Guys, I have a Ruby Ridge shirt that's really rad. He has a ton of cool designs that run with anything. If you're a libertarian or an ANCAP or a Christian who, reads his Bible, you're going to love any of the shirts there. If you go to whotouchedit.com, peruse his gallery, tons of cool shirts on there. Again, they're comfy, they're fit, they're just all around great shirts. Andy's a friend of mine. He's a cool cat. And I appreciate Who Touched the Thermostat all the time. So I was always wanting to shout him out, especially before Christmas. So you have, I think today and the next day, maybe it's up the one. I don't know what his time schedule looks like to get things before Christmas. And since I don't know, I do know, I think today's the last day of a sale he has on right now. So I'm going to go ahead and say, go right now to Who Touched. Well, don't go right now. Continue watching Pardon My Life, but go to whotouchedit.com. Check out the link and then peruse and buy you something for Christmas. Buy your friends something for Christmas. Heck, buy me something for Christmas at whotouchedit.com. Again, cool guy. Got a bunch of great stuff. The material, all the sizing, all of it actually fits. It's not, and I'm oddly shaped. I'm tall and lanky. And my midriff is extra long. And here's another Star Wars. I'm built like Kylo Ren, and not in a good way, like in the worst parts of Kylo Ren, where he's got like his midriff is extra long. Like, yeah, that's how I'm shaped. T-shirts fit great. So go to whotouched.com, buy a T-shirt. Everything's Star Wars themed tonight, guys. I'm trying my damnedest. Keep this Star Wars themed. One more thing about failure, since we're talking about failure. There's only one failure that's completely terrible, that's non-redeemable, that there's no gold in. There's nothing you can pull from it. It says nothing about who you are. It says nothing about anything that you've done. It's complete waste. It is what I would actually presume an actual epic fail. There's one type of failure that's a complete epic fail. And I think, and this is the thing I would like to avoid doing, in the years to come. And I'm going to reflect on all the times I did do this one particular fail this year, because that's the failure to not even act. The thing about failing when you do something is it automatically presumes that you were doing something. You can't not do, if you don't fail at something, if you don't try something, you can't fail at it. And I think that's where people get stuck the most. And it's the year 2020. And so it's weird coming from me because I do all things. Like, I love just to do things. I'm always doing things. And I think people are starting to wake up to like, hey, it's the internet. I can make crochet macrame owls and sell them on Etsy. So people are really tapping into this. But it's one thing to do something and fail, which is like, you learn, you move on. It's another thing to not do anything. And to go, I'm too scared to fail, so I'm not even going to try. That would be what I consider an epic fail, because there's nothing to redeem out of that. There's no goal. There's no lesson to learn. There's just no action. It's just, you were too scared to fail. You were too scared that you were going to make a holiday special and it was going to flop, that you didn't even make the holiday special at all. But then you never really make Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi. Now, you might not make the last Jedi or, The Rise of Skywalker. You might not make those. I actually like The Rise of Skywalker. It was just The Last Jedi I didn't like. But you also don't make any of the great stuff either. So really the only failure that needs to be avoided at all costs with everything in you is the failure to not do anything. Like that thing. That thing is the worst because there is no redemption in that. There's a story in the Bible, and I'm not going to go into the long one because it's not necessarily, but because a lot of people have already heard it. You should probably have already heard it. It's parable of the talents. An employer, a master, he's got 3 servants, and he gives them all a portion of, I guess, talents, what would be considered, let's just call it money. Gives them all a portion of money, uh, a little bit, a medium amount, and a large amount. He says, "Go ahead and take this. I'm leaving. When I come back, I expect you to have it." So, the 2 guys who got a bunch went and put in banks and invested it and went and used it and traded it. But the one guy, he had 5 talents, I think it was. He just buried in the sand. And when the employer came back and the master came back and he was like, "All right, well, give me my money back. I left you with money. What do you have for me?" They all gave money with interest. Like, "Hey, here's a bunch more that you left." But the guy undug the 5 and he's like, "Look, I knew you were a scary person. You were a hard person. I knew if I tried to use this and lost it, you would, I would be reprimanded. I would be scolded. There would be hell to pay had I made a mistake with this money. So I just buried it. I buried it so I knew when you got back, I could pull it back up and it's exactly the same." And the master was like, "You wretched servant. Like, that's not what I gave you for. You just buried it. It's not the point. At least attempt it." He wasn't mad that he would have lost money. He's mad that he didn't even try. He didn't even try. And in this, I mean, it's a biblical parable Jesus talks about. He's talking about what God's given you, your aspect of life. Your life is not your own. When he says that with Caesar, it's like, well, who do we pay taxes if we don't? Jesus says, whose face is on the coin? It says it's Caesar's. Well, render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's, and render unto God what is God's. Whose face are you have? You're the imago Dei. Your face is, you have God imprinted on you because you are his creation. So you owe your life to God. And so that's the whole point of the talents thing and failure. The only failure that's irredeemable is to bury your talents, to not even attempt, to not even try at all. Like, at least try and fail and make that mistake because it's redeemable, but to not try at all. So in 2025, it's the year of doing stuff, guys. This is going to be the year of whatever you were working on. You're just going to take it and go, "Hey, even if it sucks." Yeah, say you're writing a book, or say you're making a screenplay, or you want to make a music album. At least put everything you have into doing whatever that thing is. Maybe it's not that. Maybe you want to, save up for maybe your game thing is to take your family on a vacation. That can be just the same thing. Create a great vacation for your family. Do something. But don't just go, "Well, what if it's a terrible vacation? What if my family hates it? So I'm not even going to attempt." Well, now you've really failed. Like, that's the point of failure. And to go into what it means to be creative, or be creative and to create things. That's a whole nother episode. I'll probably do that this year. We'll talk about what I think as an artist, how I think everyone has an aspect of creativity and art in them. I can argue that till the sun comes up and then the sun goes down, and then I can argue it again. Because I believe I believe you are the imago Dei. God created you in his image. And what the first thing we learn about God in the Bible is that he created. And so he created you to be in his image. So the first real commandment is to create. So I think that is, I think it's built into everybody. And so the one thing, the first thing command God's, I mean, it's great to, be fruitful and multiply. But really what that is go and create, go build, go make, go do something, friggin' do something. So when it comes to failure, even if you fail, at least you attempted. That's the whole point of this episode. At least you tried the holiday special. It was awful, but you got Boba Fett out of it. And 40 years later, you're throwing in a cool little circus scene in the Skeleton Crew. And that's it, guys. I had one other clip. Let's watch this clip, because I thought this was interesting, talking about failure and owning it. We're gonna end it with a little bit of politics. I got a few more minutes left. I think the point came across, but check this out. This is Anna Kasparian. She's on a show called The Young Turks, hardcore progressive lefty. When I say lefty, I mean like progressive, not like your shill Democrats, your normies. They're hardcore progressive, hardcore left. Like in the socialist kind of realm, like a Bernie Sanders kind of, we want to pay for everything, that kind of thing. Coming from that camp, but a few things over time have really shifted the way she's looked at everything. And since she brings up the media in this, and this whole podcast is really about how the media lies to you, it's just been a slow media week. I want to play this clip just because I think it says a lot about failure and how to redeem yourself, and I also think it's relevant to Pardonable Live because this is what we do here. So check it out.
I can definitely be honest about my own flaws and my own mistakes because I bought the mainstream media narrative that there wasn't a migrant crisis.
Really?
And yeah, I did believe it. I believe because, look, I was an idiot because, I mean, who do you trust in today's media landscape?
I know.
Right? There's a lot of liars out there.
Yeah,
and when it comes to mainstream media, the fact of the matter is they do play defense more and more for the Democratic Party. And that's an issue because there was a time when that didn't happen. And so I still believed in their good faith reporting, even though it turns out, a lot of these reports would omit really important details about what's really going on. And so
I thought that was interesting because she basically calls out what we call out in the show all the time. That the corporate, she calls it mainstream. I call it the corporate media is just playing defense for the Democrats, which is true. But sometimes they play defense for Republicans too, like Liz Cheney. And so it's not just if you have a D next to your name. It just seems like they play defense for whatever that whole thing, that group is. It just so happens that group is really for Kamala and Joe Biden, and absolutely hates Trump. Absolutely hates Trump. We like to call that the regime. I like to call it the machine. I think there's an obvious machine at work. The deep state, the globalist, whatever. Alex Jones, if you watch that, or whoever you watch, whatever you listen to, whatever you watch. My interpretation of it is machine because it's very. It puts a image to your mind when you say globalists or deep state or swamp or regime. Those feel kind of ethereal. But if I call it a machine, all of a sudden you're starting to notice it's like steel and cold with gears, and each part is moving and crushing, and that, so I, of course, as an artist, I like to use the word machine. Either way, she's talking about that thing. It seems like they're playing the defense for anybody who seems to be on the side of the machine, which all makes sense. But she was a hardcore lefty and hated Trump and hated Republicans and hated MAGA and hated all these people because she fell for all the lies from the machine. Guys, I had to listen to a guy today who does not like the Democrats, but absolutely still thinks Trump's a racist, and he wants to put all the black people back in chains, and that he's a misogynist, and he still thinks he's a fascist, that he's going to take over the world and just ruin everything. And it's not like, well, where do you get that idea from? You could turn on the TV and hear that idea 24/7. You can do that. That was the whole point of this podcast. But what this clip shows is even if you're deep into the machine, as long as you start to just ask a few questions and start to pay attention, you start to pull yourself out of it. She's going to continue and listen to how.
And so it wasn't until Texas Governor Greg Abbott started busing or sending migrants to blue cities where that woke me up. That woke a lot of people up. And suddenly America realizes, oh, there is a migrant crisis.
Why did that wake you up?
Well, because all of a sudden you're seeing migrants sleeping on the floor in the police department in Chicago because they don't have shelter for these people, right? You're seeing, these. I love watching streams of city council meetings because that's how you understand what's really going on in these cities, right? These are real people who live there and they get their opportunity to speak.
Chicago's been an amazing thing to watch.
Wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch every city council meeting from Chicago because it's
crazy.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And for me, rather than relying on mainstream media reporting or anyone's reporting, to be quite honest with you, what I'll do is I'll go out of my way and I'll watch, the entirety of a government function, local government function. I talk to real people and I get a sense of where hearts and minds really are. And so on election night, I wasn't surprised at all. I knew what was coming. I totally knew what was coming. I knew that Cook County was going to swing, I think it's about 8 percentage points toward Republicans. I knew LA County, and this is what I was surprised about. I did not expect Donald Trump to flip 10 counties in California from blue to red. But I guess I shouldn't have been surprised about that either. Because when you look at the conditions that people are living in a Democrat-controlled state, well, yeah, you can understand why people are turning their backs on the Democratic Party.
So that's what I want to bring up, especially that last part right there. It is no, I'll just take that off. It's no surprise that people are beginning to wake up that these particular counties are shifting towards Trump and shifting towards these things, because these policies in these cities are complete failures. But they're not irredeemable, because you can do something about them. But yeah, I thought that was interesting, because I've listened to Anna for a while. Guys, I used to actually listen to the Young Turks, not unironically, and not just to pull from clips to play on my show. Like, actually, I wanted to hear what they wanted to say. Every week I would listen to them, just to kind of get that perspective. I was very curious about what this side thought about things. I wanted to know, because the last thing I wanted to do is just take a right winger's idea caricature of a left winger and tell me what they're saying, or show me a 10-second clip. I legit want to know. That's the thing. That's the difference. I don't want to make a mistake because I didn't do anything about it. I just was like, oh, I'll just, I don't actually have to put the work in. I'll just listen to old Benny Shapiro tell me about exactly what's happening over in the Middle East. You actually have to pay attention to things and put the work into it, because I don't want to make a mistake. I've made those mistakes before. I've failed in that. And I don't want to do it again. Anna's doing the same thing. She's failed. She fell for the propaganda, and she doesn't want to do that anymore. She's making an actual effort to listen to city council meetings and talk to people and get out of the bubble to make a difference. Maybe not even for America. Maybe she's not doing it for America. She's just doing it for her own sake, because she doesn't want to fail in that aspect, because she's already done that. She's already failed there. She's already made those mistakes. And she's not ruined by them. Everybody who was wrong about any particular topic, pick any of them. The COVID one kind of throws me off a little bit, because that was such a weird, staunch thing, a hard line for people to take in any category. That one's hard for me, but even then, if I sit back and go, wait, people who in any direction, well, no, let's say people who went with the machine, they've gone with the machine all their lives. So why wouldn't this one have been any different? And so that's the thing. I was like, well, I understand that concept. So I try to show grace to that. But again, a lot of those people woke up from that whole thing, like Anna just did. They took a turn. They were like, "Nah, I fell for it." I listened to a Jordan Peterson podcast where he talked about how he took the particular jab, and he tells the reason. He goes, "I thought if I got this, they would leave me. Go, just get it, and they'll leave you alone." And he says, "I was completely wrong about that. I wish I would have never done it, but I believed it, this thing, and it was failure." And so now he goes forward knowing, guys, failure is not the end. It's not even supposed to be crippling. It's just something we deal with in life. The one thing that is crippling is the failure to enact, to not do anything, to be so scared of failing to never even go forward. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's been a bit of a chill episode. We're moving in the holiday season. Everybody's busy. Everybody's got things going on. But I'm here Sunday nights, 8:30, Pardon Live, hanging out with you. We're always just going to hang out, have a good time. I rarely get to have like a hardcore moral at the end of the story, or to be honest, to not joke so much and just to have a heart to heart. And I think that's what tonight was for. I thought I want to talk about that, because again, not to rehash this, but the holiday season can be difficult for a lot of people. And again, I say this, it's difficult for more people than you know. And so I thought maybe it'd be cool if we got on here and I just had a heart to heart with you about what I think about the worst aspects of life, which is failing. You know, if you ever get into a really dark spot and you're like, look, I don't think I can ever recover from this, pop in Star Wars Holiday Special into your DVD player, because that's probably the only way you're going to find it, and just watch that thing. There are worse things in life than whatever you did. As long as you attempted to do something, it probably will come out better than the Holiday Special. One of the greatest, worst Christmas movies of all friggin' time. Star Wars Holiday Special. Guys, I hope you enjoyed tonight. I'll be back next week with a different movie. A different Christmas movie. I should point that out. It's a Christmas movie. We're going to theme the whole episode around another one of my favorite Christmas movies. And then it'll be Christmas after that, and then we'll see what happens. But I'll be back here Sunday night, 8:30. Partner Live. Go and like and subscribe. Ya jabronis. That's what it says at the bottom in cursive. Very jolly and merryful. Is that even a word? I think it is. Merryful font. We'll be back next week, guys. I hope you have a fantastic week. Make sure you get all your holiday shopping done now. It's only going to get worse. Go ahead and get out there and act. Do not fail by inaction and not get your holiday shopping done. You can go to pardonable.com and whotouchedit.com to get your merch and your art and all kinds of cool stuff there. And if you're like, well, I don't have anything else, real quick plug, you can go to amagicalmessage.com. Get you a letter from Santa for your kids. Make this the most magical. Again, you got like hours to get it, so you better hop on right now. Whenever you're listening, you could be listening this the day before Christmas because it's online. You're too late. Sorry, you're too late. But those who are listening this in real time or the week or 2 weeks before, order a letter from Santa. It's personalized for your kids or your kids. Make it a memorable holiday season. Do it every year. And then just have them, each one, put them in the photo album. People do that anymore. Either way, guys, I hope you have a fantastic week. Get all your Christmas shopping done. Do not let failures destroy the year coming up. This is going to be a great year for everybody. I'm saying that because I can. Why wouldn't I say that? Who's going to tell me I can't say it's going to be a great year for everybody? Nobody. I do what I want. I'm an adult, and that's what I say. It's going to be a great year for everybody. Looking forward to it. Let's take our failures and rock and roll, guys. Hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you back here next time. God bless. Ya Jabber.